by the bishop for appeals. Let's say Carol and Miles decide to testify against Dominic's lavish lifestyle. And let's say, for the purpose of argument, that Father Carlson is now the rector of St. Albans. So they hold a hearing on this in the parish and decide that he's guilty of embezzlement and pass an interdiction on him.
Is this a public hearing or just before?
No, it's a private hearing. And decide that he deserves interdiction. Dominic has the right of appeal to an ecclesiastical court to be convened by the bishop. You can appeal. And the chances of slipping through that process are pretty...
My question is in practical daily life of the parish. What type of parish does
Well, you see, this is all dependent upon a Christian world, where there's one parish in a community, like in England, where the church in town is the church, and your choices are in church or out of church. What happens pragmatically in America is if you exercise ecclesiastical discipline, two things simultaneously happen. The person leaves the church and goes down the street and finds another church and then starts running around telling people you're a cult. Those two things happen automatically. But you see, if the church was functioning, church capitally correctly, a person who's under discipline in one congregation could not jump to another congregation. They wouldn't be allowed there either.
Going back again real quickly to the deal about witnesses, in the same scenario, if Miles was suspecting Dominic of embezzling but didn't have any proof, but went through Dominic's trash can and found documentation that he was doing this somehow, is that considered like a confession without being so much? So even though he has proof it would hold up in a court of law in the U.S., that's not valid.
But now you see that it is he needs to take someone with him.
Oh.
And he and Carol could go through Dominic's trash.
So that then it counts as
You
witnesses.
need two people.
So that counts as witnesses
Right.
then? Okay.
One minor question. What do you do if Dominic's embezzling Miles' money? Miles now knows it,
Mm-hmm.
but no one else knows. What does Miles do?
Okay.
Because he has no witnesses.
Well, I just, bring somebody to look at the books and probably...
What you do is you take your books, your proof, to your rector. And your rector can send it to the bishop, because the bishop is the final authority.
So the rector can't take a big decision like telling your aunt about to.
No, without consulting with his bishop.
What if it, how much leeway does a rector or a bishop have in a case where the credibility of the two witnesses, like for instance, Miles and Carol, stand to gain somehow if I'm out of the church?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't prove anything. Well, they might have a motive here. It looks like, for somebody like they stand in inherit my siblings or something like that, or my vast financial,
For
all
like
these gems, I'm now falling out with joy, and the meat goes to Carol.
That's right.
And you know this, but there's nothing sinful on their part. It's just that they stand to inherit something. Can you take that into account? And
Oh,
read their
absolutely.
testimony?
This is why only you must understand that the consecration of the episcopacy should be done with more hesitations than the election of a president for this republic. Well, obviously we do that one, but the point is this is a more serious question on holy matrimony in people's lives. Is the choice of a bishop should be done with tremendous fear, humility, and trembling. on the part of those who make these decisions, because this then goes to the bishop, and the bishop has to make these decisions. It's a terrible job, because he does have to take into account. You know, the most famous case of this was immortalized, if Arthur Miller could immortalize anything. In Arthur Miller's play The Crucible, which is based upon a very true story, where you had during the Salem witch trials in 1698, 1699, you had people accusing, 3 girls accusing all of these innocent people of witchcraft, and them being taken out and hung for witchcraft, until a very careful clerk at the colony offices in Boston noticed that all of the accused were from one side of town and all of the accusers were from the other side of town, and that the relatives of the accusers were buying up the property of the accused. You see, it was definitely done for financial gain. And of course, the most infamous example of this is Judas the Iscariot, you see, doing something for financial gain, but that's got to go to the hands of the diocesan bishop. Number 4, trials are conducted by orders. That's capital O-R-D-R-E-S, orders. Only priests may try priests, only bishops may try bishops. Orders refers to orders in the church.
So bishops cannot try priests, is what you're saying?
No, priests must be tried by other priests.
Can it go into a bishop?
It can be appealed to a bishop, but the actual trial has to be by fellow priests.
Why is that?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Well, in the case of a bishop being tried by a bishop and wanting to appeal, does it then go to a different bishop or to an archbishop, or what is it?
No, this is a good question. If a bishop is tried by bishops and deposed, there is no further reform. There used to be.
So he's not tried by a panel of bishops, he's only tried by one bishop?
No, by a panel of bishops.
Oh, okay.
3 bishops, 3 priests.
Like with the writer thing, it was...
Right, like quote-unquote bishop writer.
So if the bishop gets tried, then he can go to the archbishop and say, and then justify.
But a priest is tried by other priests. A bishop is tried by other
Is
bishops.
priest also in a panel situation?
Yes, 3 priests.
Why can't the bishop talk to someone about it?
Why? Because there's no higher appeal. We don't have a vote.
Doesn't the archbishop come for anything?
No, he's just another bishop.
If there's a case of schism or heresy, that, like for instance, let's say there was a conservative Episcopal bishop still in Virginia or something, and he was opposed by Episcopal bishops, he could then appeal that to an Orthodox, and he
Right.
could just leave and say,
Right.
these churches-
Yeah, that's in a case of not due canonical process, that's martyrdom. You see.
Okay, actual case, there's a priest who was in the UEC, situated in either Georgia or South Carolina, Grover Tippett, I believe is his name, who confessed to, or it came out that he had been laying hands on his parishioners and confirming them rather than going to the bishop, and Al Knight deposed him.
Absolutely illegal.
Interesting.
Absolutely illegal. Cannot be done.
He would have to go to ecclesiastical trial then.
By priests, not by bishops.
And this I told.
This is what Knight said he did.
No, he did it. Oh, yeah. And I told George Morris this over and over again. And you know, I made George Morris turn paler than usual because I told him that it, according to the Canons of Ecclesiastical Discipline, it is patently illegal.
Fascinating.
And it must go before a panel of priests or a panel of bishops.
What you meant that was illegal wasn't the confirmation on what that may have been, but that the bishop couldn't depose it by himself.
Right. Right. Not without canonical due process.
Oh, okay, I understand.
But if you have a jurisdiction such as our jurisdiction, where there are only two bishops, that didn't have to.
We have a clause for this. We have named constitutionally the ecclesiastical court. Our ecclesiastical court for bishops is the Archbishop, Bishop Truman Davis, and Bishop Moses Tay. Our ecclesiastical court for, hello. The ecclesiastical court for priests in our jurisdiction is the Reverend Mr. Carlson, the Reverend Douglas King of St. Barnabas, Seattle, Washington, and Bishop Truman Davis. Why do you say a bishop? Because right now we are, we're all priest low, so we have to substitute. He can't vote, but he can preside.
When he dies, will the soon to be Bishop Johnson then take his place
He'll
automatically, or he'll be
automatically,
named there?
that's right, no, he'll automatically assume Bishop Davis's. So that's how we've dealt with this.
What about trials of deacons and laymen?
Okay. A layperson and a deacon do not have a trial. They have a hearing before their rector. Then if they want to appeal that, then they go to ecclesiastical court. Good question, Jason. They go to ecclesiastical court, and the ecclesiastical court is priests. You realize there's no such thing as a floating deacon. Every deacon is assigned to a priest somewhere or to a bishop somewhere. So if a deacon falls into grievous sin, he goes, the two witnesses and his rector have a discussion. The rector consults with the bishop and makes a decision. If the deacon appeals that, it goes to the ecclesiastical court, which is 3 priests. If a lay person is in this position, they do exactly the same thing.
Would this pertain to something like a divorce situation where the rector asks the person not to come to communion and the person decided to challenge that?
That's it exactly. It goes to the ecclesiastical court then.
The divorced person can't be communed. Is that what you just said?
Yes, if you have a divorced person who has, we're going to talk about divorce. There's a very complicated canon about divorce. Very complicated. Okay. Now, do you need a break? Probably so. I would like to just forge on. Oh, you probably need a, yeah, you probably need
How much longer do we have?
it's one more point.
And then we're gonna stop.
Yeah, you want to stop? I'm sure.
Can you handle it? He's not shaking.
Capital H. Ecclesiastical punishment. Or I guess you would say, in good ecclesiastical terms, whack 'em, whack-us, whack-up. Ecclesiastical punishment. What do we do with you?
Can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry, this is on the point before. Does it have to be, like, could you be on a panel of Roman Catholic ecclesiastical court? So it has to be
I was actually, for the diet, get shocked for this. I was on an ecclesiastical court for the Diocese of March in the Roman Church.
Why would you get shot for this?
Because one of the people was, the man was a mafia person. And it's still recording.
It's on
He,
tape
he
too.
was a good person, a nice person, a good-looking person. And I was, they needed, the man, it was a palimony type sort of situation, common law marriage. The man, could you turn that thing on for a second?
It can be edited.
Number 1.
Ecclesiastical punishment has only 2 purposes. What? Fun. Ecclesiastical punishment has only 2 purposes. You realize, don't you, that a major factor in criminal law, in English common law, is vengeance, is revenge. It's not just compensation, there is an element of revenge. Canon law, ecclesiastical punishment only has 2 purposes. Little a, to seek the reform and correction of the offender. Now this is assuming that they're a Christian to begin with. We're seeking, someone who is truly an Orthodox Christian who's fallen into grievous error. We want them to be reconciled, so we punish. But B, to protect the integrity and the good of the church. If someone says, well, the individual is more important than the institution of the church is just an idea, the church is just a philosophical concept, the church is just, my favorite, an institution, balderdash, mule fritters. The church is the bride of Christ, and her integrity must never be compromised. And so we must protect the integrity and good of the church. So yes, we want the offender to be reconciled and to reform and to come back into full fellowship and to live a life of grace and godliness, but we will not do that at the expense of the good and the integrity of